Winter Whiskey, Glenmorangie A Tale of Winter 13-year-old, and Glenfiddich Winter Storm 21-year-old Batch 3. What are these like? Stay tuned for the Whiskey Whistle. Hey, my whiskey people. Mark Kaufman here for Whiskey Whistle on YouTube, sharing a little whiskey awesomeness from Winnipeg, Winterpeg, the center of North America, bringing you a 2-up of winter-themed single malt Scotch whiskies. We've got Glenmorangie A Tale of Winter, a limited edition 13-year-old, 46% ABV, and we've got Glenfiddich Winter Storm, 21-year-old Batch 3. This is 43%. Well, let's get these poured right away. Now, this is actually a flagon. It's not a painted bottle. So that's made of porcelain, ceramic, whatever. I'll get that poured. Just a nice amount. There we go. And then we'll pour some of the Glenmorangie. Oh yes, I'm not going to open that one because it's too new. And I've got a nice sample here from my buddy down in Chicago, Joe. Hey, Joe. Let's get that poured. All right. Now, it's very likely that both of these have some color added. The Glenmorangie, I believe, is unchill filtered. The Glenfiddich is likely chill filtered, but probably not very much, although they do want you to freeze your glass and throw a frozen grape in there. But anyway, first of all, let's check the color out together. What do we see there for color? Quite a bit darker for Glenmorangie versus Glenfiddich. I would say that this is definitely a copperish hue, and we've got more of like an 18 karat gold for the Glenfiddich sample. Now, a little bit of information about these two whiskies. The Glenfiddich has been finished in Canadian ice wine casks. So that's a really special thing because we're here in Canada. Canada is the winter wonderland of the world, so it makes sense to do that and call it a winter storm. The ice wine should be fairly sweet, so those casks should add some actual sugar content to the whiskey itself. And then we've got Glenmorangie A Tale of Winter, which has been finished probably for, I don't know, could be 6 months, could be 8 months, 9 months, in Marsala wine casks. I believe those are Italian Marsala wine casks. And I'll just read that to you. And this is the important information here. And it's funny that it's on the back of the label, not on the front. All right. He finished the 13-year-old single malt in Marsala wine casks from Sicily. There we go. Okay, so we've got 2 wine-finished whiskeys, both of them winter-themed. And I'm expecting that the Glenmorangie will have some real umami, real, very unusual flavors from those Marsala casks. The Glenfiddich should have some crisp, kind of sweet, almost like Tokai or Sauternes for that particular style. So adding some sweetness, adding some definite wine notes. So let's see if I'm right. First of all, let's check out the legs for both of these together. Okay, here we go. I think I poured pretty much the same amount, round about 30, maybe 25 milliliters. So what do we see for legs? The Glenmorangie seems to have started first. Both fairly similar kind of thickness. And however, the Glenmorangie has a little bit more secondary legs going on. That said, they look like they're just starting over here. Oh, so that's interesting. So we might actually have a little bit more stuff in the Glenfiddich than the Glenmorangie. Wine stuff, cask content. But they're both syrupy and slow. And this is just really insane. I don't know if you can pick that up very well, but it's super, super slow with the Glenfiddich. I got to figure out a way to showcase these legs better for you. All right, so we're going to leave the Glenfiddich 21-year-old for the end of the show. We'll start with the Glenmorangie. It's 13 years old. We can kind of get started with that. It's already been about 5 or 6 minutes since I poured that. And again, a big thanks to Joe Galino down in Chicago. Make sure you check out his writing at the Whiskey Network. He's got a great Facebook site, Cigars, Whiskey, and Winning. So check that out. All right, so the nose for Glenmorangie, A Tale of Winter. And I'm wearing my winter shirt. The first thing that comes to mind is this is unlike any Glenmorangie I've ever had, and yet it's still Glenmorangie. And when you nose it, you're like, holy crap, this is winter. This smells like heavy, dark, a Christmas cake, fruit cake. We've got dark raisins in there. We've got the candied pieces of whatever, like I think that's pineapple core that they color and stick in there. An array of dried fruits. We have dried currants. We've got prunes. Almost like Vina Tarta. And there's a slight marzipan. Pardon me. I'm salivating already. There's a slight marzipan note coming out of this. So Vina Tarta with its like shortbread, shortcake. It's still shortcake layers, and its prune layers, and its marzipan icing. There's a ginger snap, kind of a cookie in there, kind of like the Danish brunkager. I think that's really hard to say. So kind of like Danish brown cookies. So I'm thrilled with this nose. Now let's check the palate out together. Cheers, everybody. Happy winter. Hopefully you're getting a good one in. We're inundated with snow and cold weather in Winnipeg. But like I say, it's Winterpeg. Cheers. 46%, and yet that the content, the sugar content, yes, the sugar content coming from those Marsala casks are really making it just very, very gentle and easy on the palate. And this is very hard to come by, and I think that everybody is thrilled with these new releases from Glenmorangie. I personally am. Tale of Cake got big points for me last year. You can check out that review. This is very, very nice. But let's get back into this. So the second sip. Dark fruits. That classic Glenmorangie citrus, pear, vanilla kind of coming through there, but in behind this dark fruit. So that's what I mean to say it's so different, and yet it is still Glenmorangie. Very long, sweet, fruity, spicy. You know, the ginger cookies I mentioned, the Danish brunkager, that's really hard to say. The Vina Tarta. Some nutmeg in there. Now those Marsala casks, I wonder what type of wood it is. Could very well be European oak. But if not, those casks had held Marsala wine for probably a few years, like 3 or 4, much longer than most wines. Supremely delicious, and so far this is a flawless, delicious, dark, very special Glenmorangie that I think that that so many people who typically enjoy different whiskeys would love to try. All right, let's add some water here. A decent amount, not too much. And we'll get right back in that, and then we'll get into the Glenfiddich. The Glenfiddich Winter Storm I haven't seen back on shelves this year, but I'm guessing that batch 4 is on its way maybe for next winter. All right, so with water added, A little bit more nutty, more almond. And again, so 13-year-old Glenmorangie, this is only matured in first fill, second fill bourbon. There's no third fill in new Glenmorangie since LVMH took over. So you've got your classic 10-year-old at 46%, mature it for 3 years more, and then put it in these casks. So you're getting a ramped up, almost like, well, what's the word I'm looking for? Turbocharged Glenmorangie here with the 13-year-old. So you've got the almond-like flavors from classic Glenmorangie ramped up here. The citrus, again, is in the background. And it's, again, kind of like candied orange rind, candied mandarin. That would be cool. And yet still, we got these big, dark, luscious fruits coming through here. Dried fruits. That fruit cake, the Danish brown cookies. All right, the palate then. Still very silky. Not much bite to this at all. But with water, you do get more of the citrus. Some added astringency, which is actually adding some balance here. It's a little unbalanced towards sweet. But, I mean, hey, this is a fortified wine finish whiskey. So you have to expect that you're getting something sweeter than the original, the Glenmorangie original in this case. Some beautiful, elegant tannins weaving through all of that dried fruit. The finish now also, it's crisper. You've got the tannins. Excellent wine. Now this is fantastic Marsala wine. I wonder, Marsala? I don't know. I would love to know what kind of wine that was so that I could get some. That'd be really cool. That's a key marketing point, and I think that should be explored more often. I don't think it really is explored at all. All right. Final sip here. Good mouthfeel, by the way. A little bit sweet on my lips. And again, that finish. We've got excellent tannins, all those dried fruits. The cookies, the cake, the Vina Tarta, the finish layered cake with cake and prune, cake, prune, cake, prune, cake, prune. And then marzipan. It's gorgeous. If you haven't tried it, you really gotta try that. All right, so first of all, a malt hug. Ah, excellent. Oh, mwah. Beautiful stuff. One more. Mwah. Excellent. Now, I really wanted to get this sweater because Dr. Bill's got one. A few other people do. It looked super awesome, and I almost tried to get one made, but it just wasn't going to be quite right. So anyway, I'm happy with this one. But anyway, let's get into the WhiskyWhistle whiskey score for Glenmorangie, A Tale of Winter. What is that going to be, folks? It's going to be 94 out of 100. You heard it, 94 out of 100 is the WhiskyWhistle whiskey score for Glenmorangie, A Tale of Winter. Beautiful stuff, a must-buy for Glenmorangie fans, and if you're into sherry-influenced whiskeys, I think you'll really enjoy this as well. So check it out. I think it'll open the door for you towards bourbon-matured whiskeys like this that are finished, but then also you should really try some really nice bourbon-influenced whiskeys, fully bourbon-matured like Glenmorangie Astar, some of the old Pultneys. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Now let's get into the Glenfiddich Winter Storm. We'll check the nose out together. Really soft, really malty. It's very delicate. It's very, I want to say it's old school. It's an older style of Scotch single malt. It's got a nice balance of bitter tones, sour tones, sweet tones, and spicy tones in the nose. And also the age, 21 years old. You're getting some leather bound volumes like encyclopedias. You're also getting some crisp fruits like a fresh bowl of green grapes. Add to that some sugar cookies. And again, this also is a very wintry style with those sugar cookies, probably decorated with Santa, Christmas trees, etc. And then there's this really interesting, I want to call it like a lemon icing. I think lemon icing is a good interpretation here. It's got a really, really tart citrus note, and yet it's also sweet. Very, very different, of course, from the Glenmorangie. These are two different beasts, but they're put here together because they're both winter themes, and there's got to be a reason for that, right? The ice wine, by the way, if you're not the ice wine, by the way, if you're not sure, the grapes are left on the vine until a good frost occurs, where they can crush the grapes and extract basically the increased sugar syrup out of those, leaving behind ice crystals and of course the actual solids of the grapes. Pumice, I think. Yeah. It's been sitting for about 20 minutes. This is really not a 2022 whiskey. In fact, this is from 2021 when it was purchased. It is much more like something from 2010 or earlier. And the fact that that's from 21 years ago, probably distilled sometime around 1999, 1998, that's a whole different set of parameters that are coming into those casks. The casks themselves, the way it's made, probably a different maker, a different whiskey maker. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. All right. Yeah, so that leather note is really nice here. A little bit of old books coming through as well, which is something you often get with older whiskeys, which I really, really like. What am I doing? I've got to taste this now. Cheers. Cheers, everybody. Not nearly as sweet. This is a very citrus-oriented green grape, delicate light fruit type of a whiskey. Not as much leather on the palate, pardon me, as on the nose. Let's try that again. Now, pardon me, that's batch number 2, experimental series number 3. I don't think there's any time frame of how long this was finished for, but probably 3 months, maybe 6. Very zesty, very citrusy. Lots of light fruits. We've got a little bit of fresh mango in there. Ripe pear. a bit of underripe melon, some Korean chamwe melon. It's a white melon, kind of like a honeydew, but it's small and football shaped. Really, really good. Similarly, some candied orange rind here. My first takeaway there is that it's a really old school whiskey. The finish here, it's sweet, ginger, sweet citrus again, that kind of lemon icing. The feeling in your mouth after having a nice Chardonnay or a Sauvignon Blanc. It's a little bit zesty, a little bit zingy on the finish, which is nice. The flavor's carrying a pretty long time. Not quite as long as the Glenmorangie Tale of Winter, but longer than probably the standard Glenfiddich 21, which I'll put in another video sometime, maybe with this one again, just because that makes sense, just like this makes sense here. All right, so with water added, let's check out the nose. More leather, more old book, and more feelings of sipping whiskey back in 2010 when I'm in Seoul, South Korea, having whiskeys that were made, in the 80s, 90s. If you present this to a, let's say a millennial, maybe even younger, like a 20-something new whiskey drinker, they might be confused because this is just really, this is whiskey. This is what whiskey was like when I fell in love with whiskey. I love this, but there's something really original, really classic about this this Glenfiddich Winter Storm. All right, a taste with water added. A really nice crescendo of everything here. Now I'm getting some leather, some old book type of a flavor-ish something coming on the palate now. Of course, who eats leather? Who eats old books? But I mean, if you've ever played baseball, you've probably chewed the leather straps on your baseball glove. I like this because it's not quite as overtly sweet, and it's a really classic Glenfiddich. This is exactly what modern Glenfiddich should taste like, even though it's not modern, But I think that the people at Glenfiddich should look at how this was made and figure out how they can recreate that, because that's a good starting block for any whiskey, whether you want to do your Solera, whether you want to do something with sherry, with something with a wine finish, or whatever, your beer casks, that will really, really complement almost any type of cask. And here, it's working wonders with this ice cask. Ice wine cask. Not as sweet as I would have expected. Of course, a good mouth coatingness. Great finish. Classic Glenfiddich. That's all I can say. It's really, really wonderful. Well, let's get into the WhiskyWhistle whiskey score for Glenfiddich Winter Storm Batch 2 Experimental Series number 3. What's that going to be, folks? It's going to be 92 out of 100. You heard it, 92 out of 100 is the WhiskyWhistle whiskey score for Glenfiddich Winter Storm Batch 2 Experimental Series number 3, Definitely deserves a malt hug. And a malt kiss. Wow. Excellent. What I should say is that it's more challenging. And the score differential here, 94 points, 92 points, both excellent whiskeys. What's the big difference here? Bigger ABV here, and a little bit more like the idea of, hey, this is going well. Let's let it ride. I think this could have done well with another few months in those ice wine casks. And probably we would have something that's a little bit different from the Glenfiddich house style, but something that's exciting and wonderfully different for lovers of Glenfiddich, and also draw in people who like other styles to the brand. So anyway, quick little comparison side by side. Again, so old school. Side by side, this is coming off kind of like sherry. Kind of like Macallan 18. Interesting. So old school, so great, so yesteryear. So flavorful. And I think that's the key here. The Glenmorangie is much, much more flavorful than the Glenfiddich. They're both excellent. They're both wonderfully flawless whiskeys. But anyway, if I was going to have to spend it or save it, I would go with Glenmorangie 10 times out of 10 here. Price-wise, what, about 140 something for the Glenmorangie Tale of Winter, and 300 something for the Glenfiddich Winter Storm. You do the math. They're both great, but that's what I like. Cheers, everybody. We'll see you for the next one. Goodbye now.